Good evening to everybody here. I'm very happy to give this today's webcast today about sustainability and supply chain resilience. And we will speak a little bit of both of the sides, sustainability and supply chain, as is indicated in the title, and to see how to optimize from those two sides and gaining some robustness and sustainability for your supply chain, while also having a look on the cost side. So as you see, I'm very happy that I have my two colleagues with me, Christina and Gilles. We're here today. I will act today as a moderator, and I'm so happy that Christina is here. She's an expert in sustainability and circular economy, and also Gilles on his side, an expert, long time in supply chain business, acting as an expert from this side. Together we will present you our approach and our results within our projects to give you some insights, what we're doing with our joint approach about sustainability and supply chain. Before we start, I would like to introduce how the webcast today will work. So as you all saw, you're all muted, but despite of that, you have the chance to interact with us. We have two possibilities. We have the chat function open every time. So I will see if some questions will come in from your side and comments. So I'll read them here, and so we can address them later on. At the same time, as some of you already tried to use, so it's working. We have an email address, so it's at the lower part of each of the slides. We have an email address, sustainability@altran.com. You can raise also your questions to this email address. And after we presented our webcast, we will be able to have a look on these questions and answer them. And by this, having probably a little bit more details according to your interests. And the third way, we thought it would be interesting to get in contact a little bit with you all. We sent out a short questionnaire with only 7 questions. And also the results we will present after the webcast, just to see about your current situation when it comes to sustainability and supply chain, and to see how it matches, or it hopefully it matches with what we are presenting in this webcast. So our objective for today's webcast is, as said, we would like to bridge sustainability and supply chain. And we will show you why. So our reasoning, why we think this is the perfect approach in terms of addressing the challenges, today's aspects when it comes to supply chain, changes within supply chain. And also, we know the COVID-19 pandemic situation, but not only that. So we see also changing regulations when it comes to sustainability, but also from other sides. So we would like to tackle all these aspects and to showcase our approach to optimize the challenges our clients see. And this also with only one approach, because otherwise you have to tackle sustainability aspect in one step, and in another one supply chain. But we can show you that this makes sense to do this in one approach. So after all, you will have hopefully an insight in our approach. So next slide, please. We will start today as indicated. So unfortunately, the second COVID-19 wave is more than real. I mean, we see this in the last days, today, and weeks. And let's start here. What we learned from the first wave, because also there you all know that the supply chains were highly impacted. And with this, I would like to hand over to my colleague Gilles, And afterwards, for sure, my colleague Christina will introduce on the sustainability part. Please, Jill.
Thanks, thanks, Zoro. Yes, for sure. The first wave was dramatic, and we know it, and we have seen the feedback. But perhaps the first wave was easier to manage than the second one. Even if we have seen, and you can see on the right side, that 31% of the people who respond to a supply chain questionnaire from Capgemini Institute said that they have perceived disruption during the supply chain during the first event. The pandemic has spread so widely and so quickly that at beginning of April, half of humanity was locked down. So I would say again, the economy was impacted, but all the stream from OEM to the final tier were more or less blocked at the same time. And we're not just thinking in one place or one continent, we speak worldwide. But with the second one, with today spreading towards the world and especially in Europe, this first wave has threatened the supplier, weakness the supplier, and we don't know at any point of this kind of pyramid where the weaknesses will come. We have heard from major OEM like Airbus, for example, that the impact is really a reality. But if we take again this company Airbus, they don't know how much is widely impacting their supply chain because they master their tier 1 or tier 2 supplier, but they don't have a full vision of the global worldwide supply chain. And for them, it's a major issue to see where the problem will come. And again, when we refer to the first wave, 34% of the people who lead the company or the government does that any vision and plan to see what is happening if my supply chain is disrupted. If you can go to the next slide. And COVID will be a game changer. Again, we know before the COVID that transparency and traceability is critical digital solution, and we are all here together to speak about the WebEx based from everywhere in Europe and often leading this meeting from our home. Flexibility is critical when we speak supply chain as to master the common customer demand, and it's again very complex when the rule is moving. And what is critical is for sure real-time decision making. But on the left side, all the trend we can see as new impact due to the COVID. Can we think before the COVID that our European government will decide to relocalize product, especially during life science and pharma industry, in our own ecosystem to protect against potential subsidy from India or China? It's really a game changing to think that we make protectionism again in Europe on the path. Geopolitical decision for sure is critical, but it was already a trend with environmental impacts, and we heard a lot of topics about it. Has impact our real life, but also need to impact the supply chain. And with the supply chain with threatened, we need to rethink the supply chain, and for sure environmental impacts, CO2 consumption and energy consumption will be critical to rethink a sustainable supply chain for the future. And it will be the main purpose of our speeches. And us, Altran and no Capgemini entities need to be very proud to say that in 2025, we want to be part of the game, and we want to be a carbon neutral in 2025, and we want to be business-free carbon in 2030. So we want to apply by ourselves what we want to propose for our customer. And I will now let Christina to make a deep dive on the sustainability and the supply chain.
Okay, thank you so much, Jill, for setting the scene for us. So now I'd like to take a closer look at what our approach is exactly and how we aim to target the main risk factors that supply chains face while simultaneously leveraging good sustainable practices. So you might be wondering why now? Why, when we are facing this unpredictable future, should we be concerned with sustainability? Well, we believe that we have been presented with a very unique opportunity to rethink how we organize and manage supply chains, making them more robust against disruptions while also building them up to be even better than before. So why exactly is sustainability such a key topic when we're discussing supply chains? Well, there's a growing focus on sustainability internationally and even at a national and a local level. So as we can see here at the national level in Germany, there is a new act of the government, and it aims to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 55%. and to create new efficiency standards while also developing and regulating new carbon pricing by 2030. And this is just one example of sustainability measures being taken at a national level. Now, if we zoom out a little bit and we go to the European level, we have the EU Non-Financial Reporting Directive. And this now requires large companies to disclose environmental and social information to the public. So as we can see, sustainability is really being considered at the regional level as well. And then internationally, we can think about the Paris Agreement, and this is pushing us towards a more sustainable model. So next November at the COP23, countries will assess their progress to reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and they will consider next steps for the future. And all of this follows a common theme that the public's awareness for sustainability has increased in recent years. So customers are increasingly more interested in a company's standing in terms of their environmental impact, and they're more willing to seek out sustainable products and services more than before. So we already understand now sustainability a little bit in terms, in general terms, but why do we think that there's such a great opportunity to make progress on sustainability through supply chains? Well, supply chains are a significant tool for reducing environmental impacts. Most greenhouse gases of products and services are produced within the supply chain. And in fact, around 80% of greenhouse gas emissions of consumer goods are produced within their supply chain through transportation, through production of processes, and resource extraction, for example. So really, there is a huge opportunity to reduce emissions generated throughout a product's life cycle, and therefore reducing emissions overall. And as we can see in this graph, there is no real pattern to emissions production through different stages of a supply chain when comparing different sectors. And not every sector produces the same amount of emissions. But from these observations, we have two clear ideas. First, that a company must control their supply chain in order to manage their emissions, and transparency and collaboration between suppliers and OEMs is key to successfully lowering emissions. And then finally, each sector and company and supply chain has a unique situation that must be considered in order to analyze and reduce environmental impacts. Okay. So when we think about sustainability in terms of supply chain, we feel that the benefits have the possibility to impact all aspects of the triple bottom line. So people, profits, and the planet. Implementing sustainable practices not only has the potential to decrease carbon emissions or to reduce waste, which then contribute to a cleaner planet, but it also promotes innovative product design, increased efficiency, continuity of products and services. So this in turn can reduce costs and increase the reputation and increase access to new markets for our clients. So our approach reflects the strategy of considering economic, environmental, and social aspects. Therefore, we have coined the term ILCA, or Integrative Life Cycle Assessment. And this approach allows us to perform a typical life cycle assessment, which primarily investigates CO2 emissions, global warming potential, energy demand, human toxicity, among other important environmental KPIs, while also carrying out life cycle costing, product life cycle management, and technical performance evaluation. So really targeting all aspects of the triple bottom line. So now we have established why there's such a good possibility for us to boost sustainability through supply chain management. But how do we do this? Well, we consider how both sustainability of supply chains and management of supply chains require similar data sets and face the same risk factors. So these risk factors include economic risks like price volatility, shifts in supply and demand, environmental risks, include not just natural disasters and raw material shortages, but pandemics like exactly what we're living through now. Shortages, trade wars, border politics, tough environmental regulations make up some geopolitical risks. And finally, a successful, sustainable supply chain requires state-of-the-art technology to secure processing and to guarantee accuracy. So really, we can see that sustainability plays a key role in building a transparent and a robust supply chain. And the good news is, much of the data which is required for analyzing a supply chain can also be used to carry out an ILCA. So this data includes material flows and manufacturing and distribution and costing data. So now let's get into a little bit about how exactly we plan to deliver this. And I want to share with you now our very unique approach. So we have developed this multi-step approach that lets us target supply chain issues while leveraging sustainability, which is carried out by our multidisciplinary global team with specialists in supply chain, as well as circular economy and sustainability. This 5-step approach addresses the main risk factors in order to understand particular pain points that are holding back your supply chain, which in the end brings the most benefits to your enterprise. So let's take a more closer look now at the first step. So first, we target our activities by understanding your priorities and objectives and detecting the pain points within your supply chain. So by getting to know your organization better through joint workshops, we can more thoroughly prescribe a tailor-made solution that can best fulfill your goals. So we have experience holding workshops virtually, and because we are a global team, we can avoid traveling long distances to meet with you. It's certain that wherever you are, we have somebody nearby that can assist you. We also understand that each company is unique, which we will also take this into account. So whether your organization is really new to sustainability, or you are seasoned veterans, or you simply need a focused solution on SAP, we have the know-how to offer you a solution that can meet your needs. So once we have gotten to know your company and understand the main objectives for our services, we can then start to check your system. So data is the main instrument that allows us to improve your supply chain's management and drive sustainability. It is the key to understanding exactly what is going on in your supply chain, especially now in the times of COVID. Continuously monitoring and evaluating new data can really help to mitigate risk and understand what's happening at the ground level. So to complete an ILCA, detailed data sets, on processes, materials, and distribution across your supply chain are required. So in this phase, we will identify any data gaps and develop a plan to fit them. Here, our experts can also complete an assessment of your SAP and ERP systems to see if our know-how on these topics can benefit your supply chain. So, if data gaps do exist, data gathering activities will be carried out to meet the demand of the supply chain and the ILCA. So our specialists are here to assist you if new strategies for data collection are required. We employ many different approaches to data collection. Altran supports an online supplier assessment, for example, and we have this existing questionnaire in which supply chain and sustainability data is collected. This online questionnaire has been used to rank suppliers and also to analyze supply chain sustainability and to monitor risk. So this way of working ensures supplier performance and makes sure that needs are being monitored on a continuous basis, making it easier to make quick decisions that could potentially affect your supply chain. Once all the necessary data has been collected, we can then carry out the analysis. So supply chain will be analyzed in terms of sustainability and cost with an integrative life cycle assessment. This new approach that I already discussed to life cycle assessment is not just limited to assessing environmental indicators like carbon footprint or energy demand, but it really expands to access cost, management, technical aspects of a product or a service. So let's take a look at how we would perform this assessment. One problem with a typical life cycle assessment is that data is only accessible to certain individuals, limiting its potential to transform your organization. So we work with iPoint to deliver results that can be used not only by your company's environmental department or sustainability department, but the data can then be accessed and used in key decision-making by management, engineers, buyers, designers, for example. Increasing this access to the data in turn reinforces transparency within the company, and it can also help to avoid problems later on. You can see here we have two examples of completed life cycle costing and life cycle assessment models. The data is presented in a really visual and interactive interface, and this allows users to make quick real-time comparisons of different processes, different materials, and it also helps to identify life cycle hotspots. So identifying these hotspots makes it easier to develop a targeted approach to improve the life cycle and to achieve the company's sustainability goals. This takes us to the next step, in which our team of experts can help make recommendations to improve your life cycle based on this assessment. So in this final phase, we boost your existing systems and we develop innovative solutions for an optimal supply chain. So data security and accuracy is one major risk to successful supply chain management. In one example of this, blockchain can be used to exchange data in a safe and controlled way, thus increasing transparency and security. Blockchain has been used to increase supply chain efficiency and to eliminate errors, making it easier and faster to share data on materials, processes, quality, and maintenance, for example. It also has the advantage in that it can leverage sustainability. Under a blockchain scheme, components and materials are traceable, ensuring that sourcing is ethical and that quality is as it was expected. We have experts here focusing on blockchain technology, as well as digitalization and automation to help your organization integrate these innovative approaches into your supply chain. So, as we just saw in this multi-step approach, we can add value to your supply chain by first establishing a clear vision for the entire team and company. We then develop a baseline of data so we can really get to know what is happening at the ground level of your supply chain. By organizing and using this data in an effective way, we can help your organization to develop transparency and to develop a target-driven assessment that has the potential to optimize and improve the triple bottom line. And finally, after thorough analysis, we can assist your organization in building on existing systems to implement innovative solutions to address target areas by our team of experts. So now I will hand it over to Dodo. Thank you. Dodo, you're muted.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, thank you for presenting our approach. I mean, it's a first glimpse on what we are doing to showcasing how we bridge exactly sustainability and supply chain, and why we really are convinced that this is the right approach in terms of being effective and creating a cost-efficient green supply chain. And yeah, in the next chapter, we would like, as indicated at the beginning, would like to showcase a little bit what we're doing or what we did in the past, especially during the first COVID-19 period. And with this, as you see, we have two supply chain topics here and one on sustainability. I would like to hand over to Gilles, who will present what we did when it comes to supply chain and the specific situation under COVID-19. Please, Gilles.
For sure. Can you move to next slide? Thanks. First case, our customer Continental need regularly to reassess their supplier regarding the German methodology, automotive methodology VDA. And what was their thinking before the COVID? They take a guys, put on the plane, make 10K kilometers to go to Japan and to assess the Japanese supplier and get back. But they need to reassess the Japanese supplier at the start of the COVID pandemic, January and February, and it was already starting to spread toward Asia. And it was really a question for them for the safety of their people. Can they allow them to travel, and are they sure they can get back? And it is why they ask us, can we support with local experts? So for sure, German referential in Asia is not so easy to find, but we were able in 38 hours to find an expert who can travel easily to Japan. And he has performed the audit, for sure connected before with the Continental people to have all the necessary input, data, and so on. The audit was done on time with a perfect approval for the supplier. It was the first time the supplier accepted to sign the paper before the auditor is leaving. And Continental was really liking this way of working, and they have asked us to track action plan with the suppliers during the phases. So here, it's a good example to see how the COVID can be a game changer. So instead of thinking globally to send one guys from Europe to Asia, we try to find local experts to move on. And it was also the strength of Altran by Capgemini to find these experts very quickly able to access. And for sure, there is a direct impact on CO2 emission because, as you can imagine, make a local travel from Asia to Asia compared to international flight from Europe to Asia is very good for the health, for sure. Second subject is more related to aeronautic industry. So it's PAG with a subsidiary of Airbus. We have started to work with them on the data. Because it's several locations, we don't have completely the same system, and the system is not structured as the same. So we spend a lot of time to make an as-is situation of the master data management or administration of their global SAP system to be sure the data are compliant, they don't have any bad data on the system to get bad results. And we have completely reorganized the workflow, thinking about the data, and also we have made a cross mapping to be sure we have good data in one place and not wrong data everywhere. It has a direct impact on the logistic costs because we were able to reduce the missing part from 53% to 7%. So to be honest, 7% is a bad score by itself, but it's a huge improvement. But we have also direct impact on the cost. We were able to reduce the stock from 63 million euro for one period of time to 12 million euro. So direct impact on the cost because inventory as a stock, as a cost, but on the top, it can be also completely rethinking the way of managing the supply chain because often we have stock because we don't manage everything with our supply chain. So we can now optimize the supply chain because we have better data. And also we can have a direct impact on cost reduction and CO2 emission because 12 million of part to store need less square meter. So you can also re-optimize the warehouse, re-optimize everything, and also optimize your local footprint and local carbon emission on the subject. And now I will let Christina give you an example purely related to sustainability and CO2 and energy consumption.
Okay, thank you, Jill. So in a different project called Topwind, which was funded by the German Ministry of Energy, we were working among many tasks to, for one, analyze and complete a life cycle assessment and life cycle costing of certain components of a wind turbine. So for this, we, of course, had a few challenges. So one of them being just data collection in general. So we had to think of solutions in order to gather all the data from many different partners and many different sources. Then once we had this base of data on the different components, we then had to complete a life cycle assessment and a life cycle costing assessment. So in this way, we could then understand exactly where the hotspots were in the processing and the manufacturing of these components. So, for example, if there is an excess of carbon being produced due to one specific process, or if there's an excess of energy being required for one specific material. So using this analysis, we were then able to create some very targeted recommendations based on the hotspots in order to optimize and to make the system a little bit better. So after we made these recommendations, we actually had an overall reduction in CO2 emissions by 55% in this particular case, and overall energy demand reduced by 12%. So as we can see, doing this targeted approach really has the possibility of looking at the life cycle and targeting the areas that really need the most focus. So now I will turn it over to Dodo.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Christina. Probably one thing to add, thanks a lot for highlighting especially the last reference we have. I just wanted to highlight, I mean, we're talking about CO2 emissions and reduction of energy consumption, but just to underpin here, it's all also about the cost side, right? If you can reduce, but this is pretty clear, if you can reduce the energy demand, and it was looking on a very specific case, and if we want to go to our clients, as Christina stated at the beginning, to target really the not the low-hanging fruits, but every company knows where the potential might be high to reduce energy consumption, CO2, and we, with our tool, so we are working with a dedicated tool behind, we have databases and can extract and really quantify what your reduction per year or per whatsoever is. So it's really fact-driven what we're doing here, and can state according to the agreed scope of a project what the reduction in terms of CO2, energy, and hence cost really is. So this is what I want to emphasize, because this is really where we see the benefit when we work with our clients on supply chains, or I mean, it's not purely on just linked to supply chain, our approach, as Christina stated, also to product development or processes, but in this terms we're speaking about supply chain. So this is really the link we see, and where we can bring absolutely with our approach and the tool we're using the benefits to the clients. So Christina, thanks a lot. So as said, I mean, it's just a short glimpse into our approach and the results we can achieve. But as stated, we would like also take the opportunity today to get in contact with you. And first, as said at the beginning, let's have a look. We had this small questionnaire to you. For sure, it was high level, but let's have a look what those people in this call answered and what we can learn probably from the results. So Christina, please, the first slide. So I think I have to increase a little bit here that I can read it. So from those that responded, so most of the companies saw that their supply chain was medium to very high impacted, but this is, I think this was pretty clear, and there was really no company who stated, well, there's no impact. But I mean, it's pretty clear there. This is the reason why we're sitting here together. We added here a graph from Gemini Research Institute from June this year. So just to emphasize where we see where the issues not came, but still coming from. So the first 5 top reasons we see. So for sure, there's a customer demand, and it changed due to the pandemic, so it was impacted. But second, so there was a lack of flexibility to access the data and being able to react properly, really on a short time scale. For sure, we know that all the supply chains were disrupted as such. Also, the sales channels were not working. And on the fifth place, I mean, this is what Christina also stated in her slides, the IT infrastructure, being able to assess the data and access the data is really key here. Yeah, and this is what we see. And this was the reason why we saw in any of the industries a very high impact, medium to very high impact. Okay, second one, what I take from your answers, you say to only sense sustainability KPIs are part of your reporting. Well, there's room for improvement, we have to state, but the good news is what we saw from the questionnaire, it is getting better. So it's not on a very good point. It's sort of might be the reason behind it. We also have from our Capgemini Research Institute also results. I hope you can read it here. So the reason might be behind that when it comes to sustainability across different parts of one entity, the maturity of taking sustainability into the enterprise is not very high. I mean, it starts in one or two regions, but it's really not spread across all the entities. So we deeply think if there would be an improvement regarding sustainability being a part of each of the enterprises, there would be something, to be able to report in all the stages that are necessary. So third takeaway. Next slide, please. So as we saw, next slide, data is key. This is what Christina already said. And what you stated was that focus areas for you guys entering was data sharing and to get a global view on the data across the whole supply chain. And we are very, very happy that this was an outcome because, so Christina, next one, this is what we are already doing and this is what we are implementing on our client side. So part is what I already stated, our Altron DB chain. It's blockchain based for sure. It's not the only thing you can be prepared with your system to changing or high dynamic landscape. But this is definitely one thing which is already, we are working with the blockchain. Also, this is one thing some of the industry players are working with. So this is really secure and a really good mean to secure data sharing across the whole supply chain. And again, to get this global view on the data across the supply chain, I mean, this is the reason why we are doing our life cycle assessment. Okay, fourth takeaway, also integrating sustainability in organizational KPIs is key. It's really key to transform into a living sustainable enterprise. And the good news is half of the respondents stated this is already reality in some or another case. And this gives us the confidence that you all and we are on the right track. And with our approach, we want to support companies across all industries to be more resilient and be more sustainable at the end. And for sure, as I stated before, and also Christina, also cost efficient, but this goes really hand in hand. Okay, so these four items were our key takeaways from the questionnaire. Yeah, let's make a deep dive in the Q&A. So we received also some questions via our email address, sustainability@altron.com, and also here via the chat function. So there was a very specific question. I think I can answer them directly. Probably Christina and Jill want to jump in. So are consumer products, means food, but also fashion and home goods, left out on purpose? So it was the slide where we showed that I think it was the slide, the CO2 emissions across the supply chain. So it was done not on purpose. The reason was only to showcase what was similar for all industries was that only a minor share of CO2 emissions is really within the OEMs. The rest is across the whole supply chain, and this also applies for other industries. So, but probably Gilles, Christina, someone of you guys want to add something, but it was not on purpose. It was just the results of this specific study we had.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Mm-hmm. So it's just
nothing to add.
Used as an example, but this is definitely the case in the other examples that are mentioned there.
Yeah. Okay, Christina, probably one question to you. Could you highlight, the question is, which data are you using for the ILCA, performing the ILCA, I assume?
Yeah,
this, or also Gilles, both of you.
Sure. So in terms of completing an ILCA analysis, we are focusing on the data. So processes and materials, of course, are key. And then depending on the scope of the analysis, which we would have to determine with you before actually taking on the assessment, this could also include distribution, end of life considerations as well.
Yeah. And probably one thing which might be important also to highlight, Christina, is the databases we have in place within our tool, right? Because with this database, you do better than I do, we have the opportunity to really quantify what's happening in the supply chain or processes, as you stated. This is correct, right?
Yeah, of course. So we use this tool Umberto by iPoint Systems, and this tool employs different data sets. So we have, of course, the EcoInvent data set and Gabi data set. So we really have a wide range of industrial or even agricultural whatsoever data at our disposal.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thanks a lot. There's another one, Gilles, that's, I think it's perfectly for you. The question is, how many supply chains, because you talked about, I think this was the reason for the question, that we have experts across the globe. So how many experts in supply chain do we have in place?
So today, when we have make the mapping, Altran plus Capgemini, we have more than 2,500 experts in supply chain, widely representative. So for sure, we have a strong footprint in Europe. But I would say the natural weaknesses of Altran legacy group is secured by the fact that Capgemini is quite strong already in US. So, and we are present in all the continent. So we can really have, we said, the local presences from all the continent to address local customer, and we can really now mobilize more and more the experts, as we previously discussed with these architect summits and the diverse opportunities we try to work together, Capgemini and Altran. We can really now see that I was able to find the guys from Ukraine to be able to move to Republic of South Africa for one project. So you just give an example. We can find something strange sometime, but it was working well to identify this expert ready to move to South Africa, even if it's based in a European continent.
Yeah, great. Yeah, this is what you're stating, right? So that we have our colleagues across the globe, and yeah, it's not necessary that we travel. Have to also look for our CO2 consumption, right? So we would like to take or implement the people we have where the clients are, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So probably another question which comes here. So yeah, okay, probably also to both of you, we have now the second COVID-19 wave. So what would you recommend, because you learned from the first wave, so what would you recommend as most important move for companies towards more resilience? I think that goes in this direction, what is meant by this question.
Yeah, so for example, as we mentioned in the beginning, of course, this is really disrupting supply chain and how our businesses are functioning. And one way that we could go about doing this in terms of supply chain would be decentralization. And of course, Jill, interrupt me. But in terms of, the overall picture and sustainability, there's a fear that maybe corporations will kind of turn away from sustainability and focus all of their energy on maintaining their supply chain. But we really think this is the perfect opportunity to rethink everything. So, rethinking how we are going to manage these supply chains, how to be more resilient in terms of everyday functions, but also incorporating these ideas of just a sustainable overall approach.
I will give an example, even if it's not related to COVID. It was related to the tsunami happening in 2011 in Japan. All automotive industry was blocked because one company in Japan produced one component used for more or less all the car in Europe and in US. And it has a massive impact to stop for 2 or 3 weeks all European factories, OEM, because this component is a tier 2 or tier 3 for them. But through the supply chain, grow to the major one and to go to the OEM has blocked everything. So it's a good example that you need to manage your supply chain. And what we can see today with the COVID is that the big one know that they need the small one. And today there is really the willingness to say, okay, we cannot just thinking about reduce the price or find the product the cheapest as possible and less cost as possible. And I don't care when I buy the product, because you need to protect your supply chain. So it's a kind of theoretical aspect. And for sure, some company has different kind of behavior on the subject. But today, to protect the supply chain is critical because especially in a lot of industry, you have a one single source. And if this source is disappearing, you cannot just like, when you change something on commodities, switch from one supplier to another one. You need to re-qualify him. It takes time and you need to find someone. So partnership, I think, will increase by the time, and we will have less the cost of the price as a driver, but the total cost ownership will be the driver, included for sure sustainability.
Okay.
I see one question from Stefan on the chat. I think it's important to answer. Below on one slide, you use the word robustness. So I will try to see the final. Robustness can be used as a synonym. Are there any differences on this point of expert view? I forgot a part of the question, sorry. The interface is not so easy to read. But yes, it's a question about robustness. And can we perhaps give a better explanation of robustness? Christina, for you. I think it was one of your slides.
Of course. So when we're thinking about creating a robust or a strong supply chain, we're thinking about the ability to be flexible and to adapt to, a changing situation. So how easy is it for us to have a constant stream of data and to analyze this data in real time? To maybe it's impossible for us to have access to one of our suppliers. So how can we make decision making in that moment to really, to
Okay, I missed a part of the question of Stefan. Sorry, the interface is not easy to read everything. The question was more the word resilience compared to robustness. So perhaps I will try to get an answer on direct. So I think resilience is you get a shot and you're able to survive. It's to be resilient. But robustness is also for me to anticipate. So for sure, nobody was able to anticipate that COVID-19 will happen. We stop the world with all the impact we know. So not spend time on it. You cannot predict everything. But I think robustness is the agility of the supply chain to be able to react as major events. For sure, there is always exceptional event. No one can prepare and so on. But if your supply chain is robust, she have a better chance to be resilient. But for sure, today with the COVID, we need to see resilience. So we need to take the shot and to see what is happening and how we can survive as a people, but also as an organization. Hoping it's answering the question of Stefan.
Okay, thanks, Jill. There is another question coming in. We all know that transportation step has a big CO2 impact in product life cycle. Sure. Does your methodology help to reduce CO2 waste on transportation step? Could you give us hints, example, and such success? probably looking on the time, but Christina, I think you can quickly comment on the transportation impact, if this is also covered within our approach.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, when we're completing an LCA, we, in the beginning, of course, determine our scope. So we decide, will we consider distribution? Will we consider end of life? These sorts of things. And in that, we can then analyze, you know, the hot spots within that system. So maybe it's likely that a lot of CO2 emissions would be produced during the distribution. So in that way, yeah, we have experts here to take a look at that and really think about how we can reorganize, I guess, the supply chain and the suppliers to lower that.
Mm. And we have seen some example on industry where at the early of 2010 they tried to put the product in Eastern Europe because the cost for sure of the labor is really less expensive as Western Europe. And we have seen on several companies to make the trend back, to move back activities to Western Europe, because when we make the real total cost ownership, in fact, you win 3, 4, 5% to move far away just for the labor cost. But if you need to add everything, the logistics cost, and at this time, we don't speak so much about the CO2 cost by itself, because we know that it will be a trend of the market to put a CO2 emission tax within Europe or outside Europe. So sometimes it's not so expensive. So I really think the total cost ownership mindset, and it is why we need to have a cost of the pollution within it, or the cost of sustainability. It's a reverse. I think we will be a game changer to rethink the stuff and to see that, yes, to take some product far away from Asia, it's not in fact so much beneficial compared to produce locally, even if at the start it seems to be a little bit more expensive.
Okay, yeah, thanks both of you. I think I just have a close look here on the. I'm very happy, and we are also happy to see that there are many questions coming in. I can just emphasize that I mean this email is still valid also after our webcast today. Please raise your questions directly to this shown email address here, sustainability@altran.com, and we will come back to you and addressing, probably you have very specific question according to your enterprise. We will come back to you very soon and being able to answer them by email or giving you just a short phone call. We would be happy to do this. Moreover, as you saw at the beginning, we also give our own email addresses. If you would like to raise specific question to Christina, because she is, as you noticed, our expert in sustainability and circular economy, probably you have specific questions to her. We put our email addresses and phone numbers directly at the beginning, and we will send afterwards a very short version of this presentation we gave, so that you have our contact details, and please don't hesitate and contact us. We would be very, very happy to answer your questions. Probably starting an interesting discussion, and yeah, get to know a little bit more what your interests or needs probably are.
I think our contact information is the next slide, so not the first one.
No, it is not. It was right at the beginning. Yeah. So, but anyhow, we will put it directly in our slide deck. Yeah, it's just to summarize. This slide is just to summarize what we today. As Christina said, our cross-expertise approach, we bring together supply chain expertise from our team and our really hands-on. So this is very important for us, hands-on expertise when it comes to sustainability, not just realizing that there is an issue, but really tackling those aspects in the companies with our clients, with our tool, quantify and to assess and to recommend where we see room for improvement. And yeah, this was in a nutshell what we would like to present by today. as said, we would be happy to further discuss with you more insights. And as said, don't hesitate, and we come back to you. Saying this, many thanks for joining. It was a pleasure, and looking forward talking to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.